Good afternoon, everyone. Misha Martin here. I'm happy to be here on this Wednesday afternoon. Thanks for joining me again for our 11th week of our Zoom with DCFS All. So I got a packed agenda today. I'm going to try and keep it to 30 minutes, but we're going to talk a little bit about graduation, the data, safety, and permanency like we always do, and then the big news around our phase 1 guidance. So I'm leaving it at the end because you got to stick around until the end to hear my message related to the phase 1 transition plan guidance. And so we are going to get to that today, and I'm sure there's going to be lots of questions. And so we might go a little over, but I'm going to try hard to keep it to just 30 minutes. So you know that I like to start with sharing something exciting from the field. And so today we're talking graduation. Now, next week, we're also going to be talking about graduation because next week, instead of doing a traditional question answer with me, we are going to do kind of a graduation ceremony for our foster kids who have graduated from high school or gotten their GED or, so stay tuned for more details and look for an invite about that. That's going to be next week. But this week, we have an exciting feature of one of our own coworkers who graduated with a BSW. And so you guys might remember that Diamond Adams from Saline County, she was a program assistant in Saline County. Now, let me just tell you a little bit about Diamond Adams that I know. I met her at the foster parent banquet this past year because she nominated some foster parents in her area to be the foster parents of the year, and they won. And I was so excited to meet Diamond. She did an incredible nomination for the Baker family, who ultimately won for their area. And I thought it was so cool that a program assistant took the time to fill out and do such a great nomination for a foster family. In addition, she was a 2019 GEM awardee and was featured in this year's DCFS annual report. She was selected one of 4 of our NCWI, that's the National Child Welfare Workforce Institute grant that we got, to be one of the stipend students to take advantage of an opportunity to pursue her bachelor in social work. And then she was a stipend student, so coming back to work for us as a family service worker. Diamond was already in school when she was awarded the NCWI stipend, and she graduated this semester with a BSW from the University of Arkansas Little Rock. So excited for Diamond. Congratulations. Her classmates thought so highly of her that they unanimously nominated her to give their commencement speech virtually, of course. So we wanted to share part of Diamond's speech with you all because honestly, she shares a really important message that I think we all need. And so remember, when times get tough, remember why you are in child welfare. That's the topic of her speech. So I'm being bold again today and trying to think creatively and use technology in different ways. So I'm going to share her speech. So just, we tested beforehand and some of you got a preview. So hopefully this works again. Just hang with us. This is my first time sharing a video on Zoom.
We all have our reasons for deciding to pursue a degree in social work. So while all of them are different I hope that one of those reasons.
Hey, Misha, sorry to butt in, but the audio is messed up again. You might want to hit that optimization button.
Thank you. Okay. Sorry, guys, having technical difficulties. We tested beforehand, but sometimes even when you test beforehand, you end up with issues. So let's see here. Now I'm having technical difficulties. Okay, let me try it one more time. No sound, no volume. Okay, let me try it one more time. Oops. Sometimes technology just does not go the way you want it to go. Okay. Let's try one more time.
We all have our reasons for deciding to pursue a degree in social work. So while mine may be different than yours, and then yours different than hers, I hope that we remember those reasons when we really need to. So when you're practicing self-care so that you don't get burnt out, I hope you remember that reason. I hope you remember it when you're dealing with a client that are pushing your buttons. I hope that at this very moment, you're remembering that reason and you're thinking, I became a social worker because, and you smile. You may even shed a tear, and that's perfectly okay. But I hope that that reason that you decided to pursue this degree carries you throughout this journey.
Oh, good. I see it works now. So I hope you guys could hear from Diamond. She did an incredible job on her speech. And I'm also proud to announce that Diamond, fresh off graduation with her degree, has been offered and accepted a position as a family service worker in Saline County. So we were excited to have Diamond as a program assistant. We are excited that Diamond is staying with us and will be a family service worker in Saline County. So congratulations on your graduations and congratulations on being a part of the DCFS team. And the NICWE stipend program continues to provide growth and development opportunities for DCFS staff during the fall semester of 2020. Since Diamond has graduated, the newest NICWE stipend will be Tarshia Farmer from Central Office. So good luck, Tarshia, and we can't wait to hear from Tarshia and the rest of the stipend students that are working through the NICWE program. So stay tuned for more graduation ceremonies next week. We will be we'll be celebrating our foster care kids who have graduated. So I hope you'll join us next week for that as well. Now, I'm going to try and share our data. Here we go. Hopefully we'll have better luck than the video. So I just want to hit this very quickly because I want to get to the phase 1 transition plan. We did really great last week or the week before on initiations. We saw a little bit of a decrease this week in several areas, but I want to give a shout out to Area 10, who had 95.7 initiation rate. So great job to Area 10. And I also got some great news this morning. Angela Newcomb, our assistant director, shared with me that there are only 8 overdue investigations across the state. So great job to all the investigators and investigative supervisors and everybody else that has been involved in the effort to make sure that we are staying up on our investigations and completing them timely. And I know, even though the numbers don't tell, but that you guys are also very committed to the quality of those investigations. It's not just that they're closed out, but that they're actually quality investigations and collaterals were interviewed and children were protected and we did good safety assessments. So thank you guys for focusing on the overdues. I'm going to move on over here. We had some other exciting news in the first placement with relatives. So I'm going to scroll over here, 35% with first placement at relatives. And I want to give a shout out to Area 2 and Area 7. I believe that's right, Area 2 and Area 7 with pretty substantial numbers. And then also, let's see here, Area 8, 7 and 8 both had great numbers on first placement with relatives. So great job. Now, last week, if you'll remember, I focused on foster care visits and in-home visits. So I want to start, and I did it wrong last week, so I'm going to try and get it right this week, on the in-home visits. You know, again, our most vulnerable population. We have a responsibility to open cases when there's true findings, but a case doesn't matter if nothing's happening on it. So if you're not seeing your kids, if you're not offering services, there's really no point in us having a case. So I hope if you have in-home cases, not only are you making the visit as necessary, a minimum of once a month, but maybe more, you're also offering some service. And by the way, a drug screen is not a service. A drug screen might be necessary to monitor safety and determine what needs to happen on the case, but just a little side note there, a drug screen is not a service. Shout out to Area 4, who saw a pretty substantial increase. Hold on 1 second, I'm gonna get my notes on the right place. Yep, Area 4. And then also want to give a shout out to Area 7 and Area 9 and Area 10. So let me scroll them down so y'all can see them on your screen. All had substantial increases in in-home visits since last week that were documented. So great job to those areas. And then foster care visits. Still struggling, but there's some great news from Area 4 at 91%. Great job, Area 4. And then also Area 10 had 88%. So great job to the areas who focus not only on seeing their kids, but also on documenting them in CRIS. There's also some good news on the permanency forefront. So as you can see, going from May 11th to May 25th, we had 66 children who found some form of permanency, whether reunification, adoption, relative. We had a non-custodial parent and 4 guardianships. So again, appreciate all the work on permanency. Now I'm going kind of fast through these because I know that the big topic of the day is to talk about the phase-in. So I was really hoping that you guys would have the DHS phase 1 plan, but you don't have it yet. I hear that it's coming out sometime between 4 and 5, but that may not happen and you may get it in the morning, but we're still going to talk about it. And so I can't talk about every single thing that's in the plan, but the big piece of the phase-in plan, the phase 1 plan, is visitation related to DCFS. Now, let me just say, we are currently in phase 1, so there are no major changes related to a phase 1 plan as far as the plan still is to encourage telework where appropriate. The at-risk staff will continue as they have been doing, working from home and having no face-to-face contact. These guidelines are really just to provide you guys with extra guidelines and across the state to make sure that we're social distancing, that we're making good decisions in the workplace as far as not sharing offices unless absolutely necessary, but even then social distancing, giving some clear guidance about when to wear a mask and when our visitors need to wear masks. So if you're not already doing it in your county office, when visitors are coming into the employee area or behind the lobby, they need to have masks. So I mentioned this to area directors and it's kind of been spreading, but we are trying to increase the number of masks in the office so that if we have to give out masks to our clients, we will, but please encourage your clients, and it doesn't have to be a mask, it can be a face covering. Please encourage your clients to come to the office with a face covering so that we don't have to supply PPE to them. And then there's some, we're still doing only essential travel. You guys, it's so important that through these county offices, we're abiding by the CDC guidelines and our state guidelines, and which will now be our phase 1 plan, which is, it is imperative that you social distance or wear face coverings in the office when you cannot. So this plan is going to encourage face coverings when you are not in your office. So even going to the restroom or whatnot, putting on a face covering. The face covering is not necessarily to protect you, it's to protect others from you. And as you know, we have heard that people can be asymptomatic, meaning they don't have symptoms but have COVID. So it's so important that you care about your coworkers and you wear a mask to protect the others. So, and including our clients, not just your coworkers, but the clients and the children we serve. So I'm going to get into the bulk of this phase 1 plan. And I'm sorry that you didn't see it before, but it's a DHS plan. So you will get it when I get it, though I have reviewed it. But the big thing that I really wanted to talk about today with you guys, and some of you were asked to join in on the foster parent call on Friday because we were talking visitation. So the big DCFS specific information in phase in is about visitation. And so before I get to what's in the phase 1 plan, I really want to talk about visitation a little bit. And I emailed out several weeks ago an op-ed piece that was done by Gerry Milner, who is the Commissioner of the Children's Bureau, the Federal Oversight Agency of Child Welfare. I've met Dr. Milner several times, and we actually worked together on a work group before he became the commissioner, and I got to learn about him and his heart. And he's a social worker and has an amazing heart for our children and families. And he wrote an op-ed piece that I shared with you guys. I hope that you had an opportunity to read it. But there's a section that I want to read and share with you now from that op-ed piece, because I feel like he articulates it in a way that I can't do. He does it so well. So bear with me as I read this quote from his article. When children are removed from their parents, even when necessary for their safety, and artificial visiting arrangements are imposed that prevent parents from being parents and children from being children, they become distanced, and that can be harmful to parents and children alike. The effects of such distancing shows up in trauma responses, in hopelessness and destructive behaviors, in increasing needs for clinical interventions, and in the repeated cycles of difficulty within families. As we struggle to develop responses and adapt, we cannot forget the simple fact that children miss their parents. Parents miss their children. And that absent aggravated circumstances, they deserve a fair shot to be together or get back together as soon as there is not a safety risk. Further, it is not merely a matter of longing for contact. It is a matter of healthy brain development, maintaining critical bonds, and prevention of trauma that persists for generations. We have to commit to doing all within our power to protect parent-child relationships during separations, and to continue to work as diligently as possible as diligently as possibly can to achieve reunification for those families who are not together. We cannot hit pause. We cannot allow hiatus. Those are, again, the powerful words of Dr. Gerry Milner, Commissioner of the Children's Bureau, and he is so right. I'm proud of the work that we've done in Arkansas, that we have not hit pause as far as serving children and families across the state and making sure that children are safe. But what we did do, out of an abundance of caution and to make sure that our children and families were safe, is we did hit pause on some visitations. Though unlike other states, we did not completely cancel visitation across the board across the state. So I want to thank and applaud many of you who assessed your cases and determined that in-person visits were still necessary and have continued to do those. But I also know that a majority of the visits that were happening between children and bio parents have been through some type of technology and video conferencing. And we are about to finish week 12 of this public pandemic, our public health emergency. That means that some of our children have not had physical contact or seen their parents in almost 3 months. That's too long. It's time to assess and look at these cases and allow parents to have some in-person contact with their children. Again, healthy for brain development, healthy for bonding, a major step towards determining what the next step in permanency is, and just critical for the children and the families that we serve. So in phase 1, this is not an across the board, because as you guys know, I believe that every case needs to be individually assessed, but they should be assessed based on the child and the parent's needs and how to move towards permanency for those children. So some guidelines around in-person visits will look like this. In fact, I'm just going to read it to you. You're going to see this later, but just so that you get the same message that you'll see in writing later. So DCFS, client face-to-face contact, including visitation. DCFS encourages in-person contact and visitation between children and parents when the factors below are considered and pursuant to court orders. So you're going to have to continue to follow court orders, but that also means that you might need to get with your OCC and advocate for a change in court order after you assess the case. So these factors: ensure temperature checks occur prior to any visits, whether in the DHS office or off-site. Ask the CDC screening questions. Those were included in the triage recommendations that we sent out the very first week of the pandemic. We can reshare if needed. this is not the right link. Wearing mask is not required, but could be considered and encouraged if the parent, child, or foster family is an at-risk, but never on children less than 2 years old. Attempt to hold visits at a location other than DHS. DHS should be the location of last resort for supervised and unsupervised visitation, which, by the way, guys, that's our current policy and direction. Encourage unsupervised visits if safe, appropriate, and approved by the court. Encourage supervised visits at a more family-friendly location, such as a parent or relative home. Again, each case has to be assessed whether that's an appropriate location or not, but consider the relative or the parent's home if safe and appropriate. Limit the number of toys and services in the visitation room and ensure the visitation room is sanitized after each visit. Whoever supervises the visit or is the primary FSW for the case is responsible for ensuring the room is sanitized after each use. Continue to allow video conferencing visits to promote more frequent contact between parent and child, even if some limited in-person contact is allowed. So if video conferencing has been working well, but it's time for children to see their parents, you can do a combination of both. And in fact, the more quality contact that can happen, the better. Okay, so this is more than just bio-parent visitation as we go into phase 1. Continue to conduct family foster visits via video conferencing unless necessary to assess safety. So you can continue to visit your foster homes through video conference unless there's a safety or other concern, which means that you need to go to the home and have face-to-face. Continue to conduct in-home protective services cases continue to conduct in-home protective services cases, in-person visits based on priority and safety assessment. So you can still do some of those via video conferencing, but if there is a priority and a safety assessment needed, then you will need to do those in person. Continue to hold any staffings or other stakeholder partnership meetings via video conferencing. So again, we are already in phase 1. We are in phase 1 right now. We are just issuing additional guidance around phase 1. So we never said that you could not have in-person visitation, but felt strongly that now that we are 12 weeks in, it is time to start encouraging in-person visitations to happen. I would also encourage you to set a Zoom or a staffing with the team that should include the ad litem, the foster parents, if there's a placement provider involved, if there's other families, to set a staffing and really talk through the best visitation plan, but move somewhat quickly on some of your cases. If you have a parent who's been begging to have in-person visits, that please move quickly to figure out how to safely and appropriately set up that visitation. Okay, so that's the visitation plan. You will get the whole phase 1 visit. I'm told, it's not up to me, but I'm told that the whole phase 1 guidance around phase 1 will come out later today. I think there's a chance it could even come out in the morning. But again, we are in phase 1, so continued telework, just the way that you're doing, based on physical space, at-risk status, availability of childcare, productivity and work duties. Those are all factors when considering whether telework is appropriate. You should all have screenings now at your local offices as well as central office before you go to work. So that should be happening. Okay, now I'm going to take questions. I'm going to look here on the question and answer first. It's going to take me a second because I haven't been, sometimes when I'm doing these DCFS, I'm able to kind of keep up. I see a comment about safe measures. There's a safe measures contact. If you're seeing that the data is off in safe measures, it may just be an understanding of when the data is pulled. There's a contact us in safe measures, so please use that contact all link to contact safe measures, but then also the DCFS team here will get those messages and work on that as well. I love all these shout outs. I'm glad people are excited about the data. Okay, I watched the Zoom Friday for the foster parents. Can you please give clarification on re-evals? Do re-evals have to be done face-to-face in the foster home? No, they do not have to be done face-to-face unless there is a specific safety concern. But let me follow up because I'm not sure what the confusion or clarification was from the foster parent. So if I'm saying something that's contrary, I will make sure to follow up via email, and we'll provide very clear guidance about re-evals. But to my knowledge, we are still doing those video conferencing unless there's a safety concern. I am not a licensing expert, so my team that's on this one, if you want to chime in, I will let you chime in too. Okay, so here's anonymous. We were just told we have to wear a mask when walking around the office. That is going to be part of phase 1. Wearing mask outside of your office, it doesn't have to be a mask. It has to be a face covering. I should really stop using the term mask because it's just a face covering. It could be a bandana that covers your nose, mouth, and chin. Because it's almost impossible to completely social distance when you're walking the halls, when you're going to the restroom, and many of our offices have limited restrooms, so everyone's using the same restrooms. It's impossible to social distance. So yes, the guidance does say wearing a mask outside of your office. Absolutely. Do we even know when phase 1 will begin? Again, we are in phase 1 right now. Do we have an idea when offices will open with closer regular capacity and we're not working remotely? I do not have an idea about when we will fully open offices. There are 3 phases, as the governor has previously put out, and at-risk does not come back until phase 3. I don't want to guess wrong, but I do not see that phase 1 is going to be just a week or 2 weeks. Like, I think we are in this for a while, but again, I don't have a crystal ball. The at-risk form is very restrictive. If we are applied for that list but have such extreme restrictions and we decide to retract it, can our supervisor work with us in helping us stay safe? Can we refrain from field work or face-to-face contact but have less restrictive hours to be in the office while maintaining safety strategies such as mask, in office with closed doors, not waiting on the printer? So the at-risk forms do have restrictive guidelines, and that's to protect the at-risk person. If it is retracted, you are responsible to complete your job duties, but I would encourage everyone across the state to work with their supervisors. Telework is still encouraged, and so absolutely you can work with your supervisor to determine what work looks like, but again, you have to complete your job duties. So, but working remotely is definitely encouraged, and working with your supervisor to come up with a plan is encouraged as well. Can you show how to pull investigations initiations off of safe measures for a week at a time? I will add that to the list to put on next week. Becky's on vacation this week, or she's out this week. And she's our safe measures queen. So maybe we will do a demo of that next week. I'll add that to the list. Safe measures. So sure. And by the way, there's also safe measures training because I saw an email. So if you're a supervisor, I thought I saw another round of safe measures trainings going on. Is the safety question being updated with additional clarifications? The CDC mentioned expanding health questions on symptoms specifically before it's being re-released to assist with phasing back in the office. I will have to follow back up on that, but we pretty much at DCFS have been using the CDC questions. So if there's been an update, I suspect the expectation would be that you would be using the updated questions at the office. Do we have any idea on how we should handle situations if we are at risk? If you are at risk and you are on the list, then you do not have face-to-face, which means you would not be on call. So if that's not what's been going on, I need you to get with your supervisor and then move that on up the chain to HR, maybe get Stacy Miller involved. But if you are on the at-risk list, you are not having face-to-face contact, which means you should not be having Now, you might be on call to provide assistance. Some areas, their on-call might be helping give assistance with finding placements. You can do that from home, so you can be on call and do that type of help. But as far as on-call showing up on the scene to assess safety, that would not be appropriate. Can we work with our team to help us do field work instead of every person in the unit going in the field? Would it be easier, lesser of a risk to send fewer out? Absolutely, you can work. If you're a supervisor, you can work and make those decisions at the local level about how to assign work. If workers go on an out-of-state vacation, are they being required to self-quarantine or just being logged as someone who has traveled out of state? We are not requiring self-quarantine. I would encourage you that if you go to a hotspot and you check the CDC website and it's a hotspot, that you do what's right for your coworkers and self-quarantine. You do need to log it so that DHS knows that you have traveled out of state. Resource was told that all visits are face-to-face in the family's home unless it is a quarterly visit. Okay, so apparently I need to look back at what guidance was sent to resource workers and follow back up on that. So to all the resource workers who I have completely confused, apparently I am not up to speed or not completely in the know. I will get in the know and we will send out some specific guidance related to re-evals. And if we already sent it out, I will make sure I'm fully educated and we will send it back out and clarify these questions. I work in an office where several workers share an office. Sometimes it is necessary for both workers to be at the office at the same time. Is that okay? Maybe, maybe not. I'm just going to go ahead and read you about the shared office space. Employees sharing individual offices will either split days in half, rotate two or 3 days a week, or create a second shift or staggered schedule, even when workstations are 6 feet apart in a shared office space. Schedules will be created and approved by the ranking supervisor for the division or his or her designee. There may be limited circumstances when office sharing needs to occur, but social distancing is essential, so you must be 6 feet apart. Sharing individual offices at the same time is strongly discouraged. So I know that's kind of a lengthy answer, but that should be, or something very close to that will be what's coming out in the phase 1 guidance. We are still allowed to work remote as long as we are doing our work. That is the conversation that you need to have specifically with your supervisor, but yes, telework is continuing to be encouraged. Now, work productivity has to be considered. So the expectation is that the employees working remotely should produce and complete job assignments at the comparable level as working in the office. So work productivity continues to need to be a factor in determining telework. Are we moving towards eliminating remote work and back into the office soon? I do not see that happening. Not soon, not in the next week or two. Northwest Arkansas data is currently trending higher data for positive cases, a decision being tailored locally for phasing guidance based on hotspots and also positive cases of COVID. I think that the guidance, I'm proud of the guidance that's coming out and put together, because I think it is an effort to follow CDC guidelines as well as the health department guidelines and keep us all safe. And they are encouraging good best practices across the state, whether there's an increase or not. So again, in Northwest Arkansas, telework is encouraged, social distancing, not office sharing, making sure that you're face covering. So a lot of guidance to make sure that you're safe if COVID was anywhere in the state. Yeah, so this next on-call one, I agreed with that. On-call is not just assessing safety. There are many times it is answering calls that are not requiring go to the home, which I said. So if there's on-call work that has to be done where you're not seeing a face-to-face, then you would still work on-call. If there is a person that is at risk, why can they not be added to the, I did say that they could be on the on-call list and do something other than go out face-to-face. I said that. So I'm not sure why that person was confused. But I'll say it again. If there is on-call work that does not require face-to-face contact, then the at-risk person can be on call. Hopefully I made that clear now. Can we have a little longer for these? I can't make everybody happy. Some want shorter, some want longer. I just try and get to the questions and I'm already over 5 minutes. But I appreciate that you find them valuable. Okay. Are we not expected to go to the grocery store if at risk? I think I've answered this question about 5 times, but I'm going to answer it again. So if the only way for you to get food for your family is to go inside the grocery store, then yes, you can go to the grocery store. If there is a better way, like click it and order it, whatever Walmart's is called or Kroger's, that, you know, but some of the rural areas don't have them, then you should be choosing that. If you're at risk and you feel like you can't work because you're at risk, then I hope you're taking precautions when you go to the grocery store and wearing face coverings as well. Hasn't central office begun a contact tracing protocol to follow notification in the office? Not sure if you had mentioned how that would be handled overall. I am not actually sure how exactly that's going to be handled overall. We're not really doing contact tracing yet. We're doing role attendance that started yesterday. So people at central office, if they come to the building, they have a certain person in their area that they have to contact to tell them they're here. So that basically they're taking role at this point. And as I learn more, I suspect there is some efforts around contact tracing. And so as I learn more details about that, I will definitely share on this Zoom, maybe next week. What do we do when supervision isn't keeping staff updated on changes? We don't know what is going on until we zoom into these weekly updates. Well, that is why I'm having the weekly updates. So I'm trying to keep you guys all aware of what's happening, and we are doing it weekly to try and keep you up to speed on all COVID-related changes. If you don't feel like you have good communication with your supervisors, you know, reach out and talk to them about that. Ask them if there's something that they, you know, I do daily. Sometimes we have to cancel, sometimes they're not daily, and sometimes they're short. But to try and keep my team here at the central office connected, we have an 8:30 Teams meeting. We try and keep it semi-short, talk about our issues. So I would encourage supervisors, you know, if you feel like you're losing that sense of team, because everybody know what's going on, maybe a quick touch base, maybe it's not daily, maybe it's 3 times a week, again, not required, but so that people continue to feel connected as they are having more contact. I don't know who this anonymous person is, but I do love you. We aren't supposed to refer to them as central office people. You can refer to all of us as people who work at central office, but when you refer to me or some individual and call us Little Rock or central office, it is a pet peeve of mine. I do appreciate that anonymous comment. Pregnancy is no longer in the at-risk category, but I encourage you to work with your supervisors to make sure that you're keeping yourself safe. With the exception of young children, infants, are you okay with face-to-face visits and transportation? I think that's what I'm saying. We're going to have to start doing some face-to-face visits, and we're going to have to help with the transportation to get them to the visits. To this client, we haven't stopped working because we are at risk. We are just not working in the office, but work is being done. I agree that the at-risk people continue to work, but there are but please remember, you are not having face-to-face. So we have many, not many, we actually only have a small portion of our total population that is at risk, but they are not having face-to-face contact. So that makes it hard. That is less or different work than as we move forward. So I just want to recognize that as well. I'm way over time, so I'm just trying to see what else, if I'm getting any other questions I need to answer quick. Oh, I've seen a couple ways. I don't have any updates on raises at this point. Okay. Oh, okay. Thank you, Keith. As far as I know, the individuals who have tested positive are doing okay, but I will make sure to get an update from the areas. At this point, I think we have had, I'm going off the top of my head, I think we've had 4 DCFS staff that have tested positive. I think it's 4 now. And then we do have 4 additional children. They're all from the same family. They were placed with their relative, and the relative had a job in the poultry farm. So we've had 4, and to my knowledge, they're doing okay. We'll get a clarification. Okay, let's see here. Oh, I love Greg. I did allot 45 minutes. Thank you for reminding me. I did allot 45 minutes because I knew this was going to be a little bit longer. So thank you, Greg, for reminding me of that. Can you do a demo of in-home visits numbers that you are pulling weekly? I'd love for y'all to meet Paul Knipscher. Paul Knipscher is our data person. So Paul, if you're on, let me see if Paul's on. I will not put you on. I would love for you guys to meet Paul. So we will add that to the list of potential guests, and he can do a quick blurb of how the data is pulled and how he pulls it weekly. That's a great idea. Okay, I'm looking through here. Just bear with me. I did say there was some more safe measures trainings. I don't remember the details. So we will get that information back out to you guys. Okay, I'm not seeing, let me just 3 new messages. Okay, that's what I get for trying to go bottom instead of top down. I usually go top down. I've been seeing my clients face-to-face on all my PS cases. I wear protective gear all the time. More masks would be good. Make sure you're communicating that with your person in your area that does PPE. You know, we do daily tracking of your PPE quantity, and we found some good resources for masks. Still struggling with the gloves, even though there are more gloves coming, but the gloves seem to be harder to get than the mask. So we are having better luck finding gloves. So just make sure that you're communicating your need daily with your person in your area who's tracking the PPE. And thank you for continuing to take precautions and make sure kids are safe on this in-home. Yeah, so again, I talked about this last week, but I'll talk about, are the offices where there was a positive open? Yes. So again, let me just quickly go through this. I went through this last week. If there is a positive in your office and the person has been in the office, because we have had some positives, not like at bigger DHS, not just specifically DCFS, where the person had been working remotely, so there was no exposure to the office. But if there's a positive in your office and the person has been working in your office, Mary Franklin, the director of DCO, and I will get a Zoom call set up with the county same day. We usually have them, you know, within a few hours of learning that there's a positive. We tell you health department guidance. DCO will set up that the office will be shut down for a day or 2 for a deep clean. And then we provide some additional specifics. So if there is a positive in your office, you will get notified same day. You'll have a Zoom call with Mary Franklin and I. And so you will know if there's a positive. Now, there could be a positive, but the person hasn't been in the office, so there's no reason to notify everybody, and there's no reason to do that deep clean. But once the deep clean happens, the office is open back up. Contact tracing occurs both from the health department, but we also ask the person who that they have been in contact with and try and make sure that we notify those people that they have been in contact with somebody who has COVID, and depending on whether they have symptoms or whatever their personal preference is, whether they need to go and be tested. So I think that I've answered everything in question answer. Thank you so much, Greg, for reminding me. I don't feel so bad for being over. Just see if I've missed anything else over here. So the time increment sheets. I love all these questions on these time increment sheets. You say we don't have to put much detail on them, just saying we're in Chris or we're emailing, etc. However, we're being asked to put case numbers in more and more detail. No, I agree. Like if you're working in Chris, you need to at least document the cases that you're working in, just the Chris number. But I think this needs to be the same across the board. I disagree with you because if there's productivity issues or concerns from a supervisor about what is getting done, if I was the supervisor, I'm not saying in this particular case it's what's happening, but if I had concerns about my workers' productivity or there was concern of a lack of information on the increment sheet, as a supervisor, I might say to the worker, I need more detail on these time increment sheets because, you know, the visits are not happening or your court reports don't seem to really have detail. So I'm gonna need a better feel for what's going on and what's getting done during the day. But I wouldn't want to require that level of detail for every staff across the state if staff are producing and ultimately the time increment sheets end up being a barrier to production. Okay. Okay. Will deep cleaning be done regardless if someone testing positive for the virus? No, the offices will be clean according to the normal cleaning contracts. They have asked for some things to change related to that, but the deep cleaning is extremely expensive, and so is only done if there is a positive. Do at-risk clients have to go to court on their court hearing? We have been making some exceptions, but you know, because we are saying no face-to-face. But if you are court ordered to be in court, please work with your OCC and see if you can peer via video conference or via phone or video conference. But if that can't get worked out, I cannot tell you that you can violate a court order. But please work with OCC. Several of the judges are working with us. If the requirements for notifying someone you test positive are only when you are around them 30 minutes or more, why are we wearing masks, cleaning? Couldn't someone talk to you for 3 minutes and transfer COVID? 30 minutes seems to be a bit of an extreme. I can't answer that specifically other than to say the health department guidance has been when you're asking who they've been around, have they been less than 6 feet or around that person for 30 minutes? So while I can't answer all of those questions, I can just say everyone is better protected if you will stay 6 feet away from people, wear face coverings, and really abide by those rules. I do not think that we're discussing evaluations. I think there's a recent email about that. I will get some more information about the evaluations. If we are working in the office, are we still required to complete the time increment sheets? The time increment sheets are for when working remotely. But if you're having productivity issues and your supervisor is concerned about what's actually getting done or your workload, a supervisor always has the discretion to ask that time increment sheets be used as a management tool, even if working insane. Okay, so I'm 4 minutes over and y'all just keep sending. I love it. I'm going to end with any idea about hazard pay, and every week, no additional information about hazard pay. So I'll try and copy and paste these into the Word document. And if I've missed any, then I will, we will try and do some follow-up. And definitely I have not forgotten about the resource and clarification on evaluations. And I know several resource staffers may not be on here today because the licensing board was meeting. So thank you guys to all that were involved in the licensing board. I know that was a lot. We hadn't had a licensing board in a while, and then they were trying to do it virtually. So it was a lot of coordination and probably some confusion. So thank you guys for all and for bearing with them and being patient and getting through that licensing board today. So thank you guys all for what you do. I will see you next Wednesday and be looking for the phase 1 guidance that comes out. I suspect I will have questions on it next week, but if you have questions or concerns, please talk with your supervisor so that those can be fed up the chain and we can respond if we need to before next week. Thank you guys for everything you do. And remember, every child needs a safe, stable family every day. Bye, y'all.